everybody, I'm Deborah with DC Fine Art and welcome back. We're going to be working on a mixed media piece, and this is the paper that I'm going to be using for it. It's a watercolor paper, it's tone tan, and it's by hahnemuhle. I cannot pronounce that. I've tried already too many times. I still can't do it, but that's a good thing I'm showing it to you guys so that way you can kind of see it. That's what I'll be using for this piece. I decided to go with a spring type of picture. So here I'm over, just basically freehanding this, just trying to get these 2 eggs in a nest is what I'm going to do for spring, or at least coming into spring. And in this mixed media piece, I'll be using water-soluble graphite. I even picked up some the Faber-Castell brush pen. I think they're just brush pens. They're an India ink, and I had gotten those and did kind of like a little review on them in one of my other past videos. It's like an urban little sketch that I decided to try and do for the first time, which I loved doing it. It was actually really fun. So I actually jumped in and decided to use those in this, and then I'll be working with color pencil at the very end, and I want to do those with the eggs. So in this I use different types of brands of the water soluble graphite, just so that way I can kind of see for myself how they act, if there's any difference between the brands. And in all reality, they all acted pretty much exactly the same. I mean, you couldn't tell really the difference between one or the other. They both worked. All the brands that I used of water soluble graphite worked pretty good. And I think I tried out in this piece like the Derwent, or no, actually I don't even think I grabbed the Derwent one, the water soluble ones, but I did grab the Faber-Castell, oh my gosh, now it's on the tip of my tongue and I can't even remember. Hold on. It was the Faber-Castell, the Color. I used those. And I did grab the Derwent. The Derwent ones are they're called like a wash, or a Derwent water soluble wash graphite, and I absolutely love those. Those are actually my favorite, and I'll show you why here in just a bit on why those are my favorite. And if I were to give anybody any advice on which water soluble graphite to go with, I would definitely pick the Derwent water soluble graphite wash. It's like a wash, and I'll show you that in just a bit. But here I am drawing out a little framework around this picture of eggs in a nest, and I don't know why I just came up with it. I just decided, it would look nice if I put like an old wooden kind of framework like right around this basket or not really a basket, but it's like an eggs in a little nest inside of this little wooden crate, and you're kind of looking at it. So I went ahead and did that. But right now I'm just kind of drawing in all of my little strands of hay, and I'm just drawing them in using my water soluble graphite pencil. And then that little brush you see me use is the Faber-Castell, I think it's like a pen eraser, or perfection. I always think P for pens. I got pens on my mind. Perfection eraser, and it's got a little brush on the end, and I do like using that little brush instead of using my hand. Otherwise I could easily smear the graphite all over the place. So here I am just etching in my framework of what I want, where I want my little straws to kind of go, and get an idea of it. And then I'll end up taking that was the that pencil you see right there. That is the Monolith by Graphite. That's a 4B. Now that is not water soluble. So the reason why I'm using a non-water soluble pencil on this piece is so that way whenever I go over it with the water, I don't want it to completely wash out some of these major pieces like in my painting, in my piece. And there is the Derwent water soluble like wash graphite pencil. It's woodless, and I absolutely love this pencil. It comes in different shades, so you can get up to 8B in it, and I think the lowest amount or the lightest, maybe a 2B, is the lightest you can go. Now on the Faber-Castell water-soluble pencils, it goes as low as an HB, which I really, really like that one. I usually use it quite often whenever I'm doing like my sketches before doing like a piece, so that way the pencil doesn't show through and it's water-soluble. But this one here, I would say if you're going to do anything water-soluble graphite and use it for a piece, these are definitely the pencils to go for. And now here I'm just going over with the water and making that little framework of a kind of like an old box. Now if you didn't want like a wood grain look or that aged kind of look, and you see that it's see-through and you're not liking that and you want it to be like solid black, then the only thing I would suggest is, and this is an 8B also, is wait until it dries and then just go ahead and go back over it with your graphite pencil and then just wash it over with more water. So it may take a couple times of just layering it to get a solid black look. But here I didn't want to do that. I wanted it more like a faded old wooden box. So kind of stayed away from going over it multiple times. The one time I liked the way it looked. Now I'm starting to go over a lot of these little strands of like hay and little pieces of wood that this little bird's nest has got in it, and I'm going over it with the water, so that way it gives basically like a underpainting effect to it. So I wanted that graphite, water soluble, I don't know, it just really puts like an aged tone to it. I really do like the way it looks. Plus that if you're layering on top of it with, like I'll be layering with some inks and doing some little pen work, and this right here adds to it being the base layer. You may not think so if you're going over it again, but it really does, because without it you wouldn't have that texture or that water wash look that you get with the graphite underneath what you're doing. So it really does push through. I don't completely cover all the graphite. I let some of it show through, and a lot of the times when I'm using my ink brush pens or my little brush pens, it usually is a little bit translucent with some of the ones I use, so it still keeps that graphite wash look that I want. So here I'm just going over some of the darker areas that I have made with the, and I use different grades of the watercolor pencils, or watercolor, or not watercolor, it's not even watercolor, it's water soluble graphite. I do use different shades. I want it to be more darker on the outside, and then as it goes in, it kind of goes a little bit lighter, and then around the eggs, of course, is going to have that shadow. And then I think that's pretty much it. Like it goes darker on the outside and dark around the eggs. So here I'm just kind of filling in some of those in-between marks of the twigs. And I'll kind of jump around a little bit so that way, otherwise this piece actually took me quite a long time. So even doing this whole speed thing, it would have taken forever. So I just went ahead and jumped a couple steps. But I definitely wanted you to see what I'm doing. It's just a repeat, you know. I just kind of did half of it and then kind of show you what I did next, on to the next step or a next little process. But here I'm just kind of adding in the shadowing, a little bit darker on the eggs. And then I'll be able to show you guys why I really, really like the Derwent wash, water soluble wash graphite. And there I'm adding a little bit of shadow right around the eggs that I see in my reference photo. And then I'm coming through with my graphite pencil, just kind of going around some of these little strands that I definitely wanted to show through. Otherwise they might be washed out. So, all right, this is the reason why I like these Derwent, it's graphite, actually it's called Graphitone. See, it's a good reason why I show it. Graphitone medium wash. And I think that one's like, I used a 2B and a 4B. And the greatest thing about these is not only can you draw with them, but if you sharpen them in a little tray, add water to it, just like with this brush, I could actually add more water to it, but I just dabbed some on my brush and then dissolved some of those little shreddings that I put in there on purpose. One's a 2B, one's a 4B, and look at that. You can actually create a nice wash with it. So that's why the reason I say if you're gonna go and use these for a piece, definitely grab the Derwent Graphitone graphite pencils, because you can do that with it, and that's amazing. So I will be using that. Right now I'm just kind of going over a couple little details that I wanted to get before I jump into that. And the other thing with these graphite is it's shiny when you put it on. You know how graphite is, it's usually shiny anyway. But then whenever you do the wash, or you use your water over it, or your water brush to dilute it or dissolve it, it actually turns into more of a matte. You know, it's not as shiny. It's not like that big, you know, metallic shiny look that graphite usually does. So that made it really nice if you're wanting to get good pictures of it and everything else. And here I'm going to be doing that wash, but I'm going to grab a bigger brush, and there I'm just dipping it in the wash. And you can actually add all your shadowing to a piece, and it tones it all down, so that way you've got that nice tone or shadow. And I did this because I also didn't want to miss any of those pieces where the graphite didn't dissolve all the way or whatever it was, and I missed a little strand. Doing this actually helped it to tone it, but then it also helped me to kind of pick up on some of that graphite that maybe I have missed anyway, because I definitely got carried away. I didn't think I was going to put that much detail into this one, and I ended up really enjoying the mixed media. It was almost like endless possibilities, and I absolutely loved that. Right now I'm picking up my Faber-Castell. These are the pen brushes, or I think they're called like artist pen brushes. They're made of India ink, And I went ahead and tried these out on it, and I went ahead and put like a white down, and then I would cover it up with this warm gray. It's in a really, really light warm gray, so that way it still stands out over the picture, but yet not too much. So I wanted it to kind of have that sticking out of the picture kind of thing going on. So I don't know, words are definitely hard for me. I'm like trying to get the right words here, but yeah, I was trying to get those couple little strands that just kind of stick out of this piece, just to brighten them up a little bit with these pins. And there is a fine pin that I use. It's like a macro pin, and I only used one of those for like some small details, usually toward the end, and the size on it is 005. But yeah, I use that for like the tiny little details that I want to do toward the end. But here I'm doing the same kind of thing with this, adding the white, and then I'm going over it with that warm gray. And all the ink pens that I did do, or the ink brush pens that I did use, these here I only stuck with like my grays, my one black, but usually it was like the grays and the warm grays. Definitely the warm grays, because of the tone of the paper and it being like little pieces of straw and stuff like that. I wanted to have that warm look. Now if I did use any of the cold gray, which is more of a lighter bluish kind of tone to it, more of a gray tone that is cold, I use that for shadowing, like to push some of the pieces of straw back into the picture. I would use that one. So the cold gray I would use to push things further back, and the warm grays was up toward the front, so that way it brings more warmth as it comes out to you. So here I'm just adding in a lot of the detail of the little pieces of straw, and I'll put in my shadowing. Then I'll go back over some of those little pieces like where it's see-through, and I'll add some black in the outside parts and around the edges of them. And then I'll also use some of the black even on the inside part, just to give it, well, in some of the little pieces, not all of them, but just to give that depth in the piece itself. So now I'm starting the color pencil part of this piece, and I'm starting out by adding in my lightest colors first. So like the whites I'm putting in there first, and then I start working my way around the outside where the shadow of the egg is. Now this one here, I did put like 3 layers into the color pencil on these eggs, and my layering process goes like, I'll add enough pigment to the paper. After I do that, then I go ahead and add my odorless mineral spirits to blend it, and then I'll add, after it dries, so that way I don't ruin the paper, I'll go back over it again with my color pencil, and then that's layer 1, and then going back over my color pencil, that's layer 2 whenever I go back with the odorless mineral spirits. So I did this like 3 times, and I used my multiple different color pencils that I use, which is the Caran d'Ache Luminance I used on this, the Derwent Lightfast, I think. Yeah, I had like 3 colors in the Derwent Lightfast, and then the whitest white that I have is the Derwent Drawing Chinese White. I used that on there, and then I went ahead and jumped into the very last part of this as doing the gosh, I just lost it. The Polychromos, the Faber-Castell Polychromos. So I did that toward the end before I blended it out. But definitely giving this color pencil, putting it with this black and white kind of theme around it, it really did make these eggs pop out, and it came out just the way I wanted it to. So I was really happy with this piece. It was absolutely fun. I did enjoy it. And then also, I don't want to forget, I usually ask one time in my videos, but if you could just click the like and subscribe on there, it definitely helps me out a whole bunch. And then also, if you want to leave a comment down on maybe something that you'd like to see, I know I have another color pencil piece that I'm going to be doing, which will be all color pencil on that one, and it's actually a pretty big one. It'll be a several step video on it. But yeah, I'd love to see you guys hit the like and subscribe, and then also leave a comment for me. I love to see your guys' comments, and I always read the comments, so I'll definitely be looking forward to it. And I hope you all enjoyed this spring-like piece that I created using multimedia or mixed media mediums in it. And I hope to see you all next time. Bye, you guys.